A food allergy diagnosis changes your life. It affects you, your family, your education, your career, your everything. That being said, as with all adversity in life, you have choices on how you can handle it. Some people choose to raise their hands, stand up, and get involved as advocates. They look food allergy right in the face and say, "I've got this." And they focus their energy on empowering others to feel the same way. These food allergy warriors range in age and background, but have one thing in common. They turned their food allergy story into action. Now I'm going to shine a light on them to inspire you to join the fight against food allergies. This is Take Action with Hillary Carter. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Take Action. I'm so thrilled that you tuned in. I'm Hillary Carter. I'm a food allergy mom and advocate and member of FAIR's Board of Governors. Today, I am thrilled to talk to Javier Evelyn. He really is the epitome of what this show is about. He's someone who has food allergies himself and chose to use his journey towards the greater good of the entire community. He is the founder and CEO of Alerje, a Detroit-based company that develops digital tools for the food allergy community. Javier, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hillary, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I followed your work for a long time, and I'm so thrilled to get to chat with you today. And there's so much to unpack. I feel like we're not even going to be able to get it all in. So I'm jumping right into it.
Sure.
You call yourself a patient entrepreneur. So as I mentioned, as you know, you have food allergies, and that really just made you choose an entire career as an entrepreneur in the food allergy space. So just give us a little bit of your background, starting with growing up with food allergies and how that evolved into your passion for business.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. So, as mentioned, I personally suffer from a ton of food allergies. So it kind of always has hit near and dear. Growing up, I'm an 80s baby, not putting a timeline on me for the most part, but the tools weren't there. The education wasn't around. I wish FAIR can time travel and go back in the day and help us all out, but we're in a great space now. My parents come from Panama. So on top of that, I like to joke, the immigrant parents like to kind of initially up front say, no, you'll be fine, eat that food, right? Keep it going. But obviously I have tons of folks that work in the healthcare space as well too. So the combination of growing up with food allergies, starting off with, I believe it was fin fish. So when I was making a dish one day, it was that same, I was always been a picky eater, Hillary. But this is one of those days, the fish smelled amazing. Ate it, started to feel some swelling of the tongue. I'm like 5, 6 years old. Mom is going to nursing school at this point, so it's game time. And that was the writing on the wall that this is actually a real condition. And as time went on, my first job out of in high school, that is my sophomore year, was working at Little Caesars Pizza. So obviously, you're going to do nothing but eat pizza in high school for the most part. But by the time I got to college, that's where things started to change, right? Couldn't do casein, which is a milk protein. Fast forward, young adult-ish, found out I couldn't do certain tree nuts like pistachios and cashews. So at this point, it's totally impacted my quality of life. I've had a different journey with regards to how folks have looked out for us, making sure you have certain snacks before, people creating little dishes for you on the side. So all the love is there. But when you start to get into the world, it's not as prominently understood that this is a real life-threatening condition. So that's when I started to put two and two together. Fast forward, I know we'll get more into the journey, but I graduated from Illinois State University, was doing mass comms. So I thought I'd be doing what you're doing right now, Hillary, doing podcasts and kind of talking it up. But had a different calling in sales, got into that for a bit, found out about tech. And then from there said to myself, wow, technology is really a superpower that you can use to solve problems. Mine is that I hate carrying an epi. I'm not the most adherent young man. My mom called me a hard-headed kid. My wife calls me a hard-headed man these days, joking but serious. So I put two and two together, saw that it was a bigger market affecting 220 million people on the planet. So that's where Allergy was born, and we've been going at it ever since.
So I love this whole evolution of your journey, and I'm so excited to talk about this auto injector, this device that you're working on that does attach to a smartphone case. Because as you've mentioned, adherence is a really big problem. Like there's just the lifestyle of maybe you run out the door and you forget it, or maybe you're, let's call it the hard-headed teenager or young adult who thinks you don't need it or might be embarrassed by it. There's also an access issue, and there's families who don't have the ability to pay for it or don't have access to the doctors to prescribe it. Huge issue on our hands. And you have created this awesome tool where it goes on the smartphone, which by the way, everyone has. And I even saw in one of your press releases a really cool stat that people have their phone on them 22 hours a day. So I think if there's anywhere where that EpiPen should be, epinephrine, it's on that phone. So tell us all about that.
Yeah, so that's what started the initial thesis of the company, being there when you need it and not when you don't, right? So we thought to ourselves, if we're at brunch, we're outside again, vaxxed up, obviously, we can go from brunch selfie to, oh my goodness, they put something on my dish, right? And in about a couple of seconds, you can go from something's an emergency to let's go ahead and basically what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, is showing how to use the auto injector and seamlessly going from, cool kid at brunch to food allergy patient and educating folks around me about how to use this device. Having emergency alerts sent out to the right folks so they know where you're at, what you're allergic to, and how to save your life. Really just inspired by the food allergy action plan that we see and that's highly recommended by FAIR and a lot of the leading food allergy organizations and doctors in our space. On the other side, coming from Chicago, Illinois, and moving to Detroit, and again, we got into technology, taking the power of technology and building tools around, lifestyle, right? So we currently have a mobile app. We have another one that's in the pipeline for another disease, another part of the disease state around immunotherapy, and really making sure that folks have a 360 solution. Food allergy is not like a turn it on and off switch. It can happen at any given time. I've had too many cases where I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I've heard countless stories of the same thing. I was at a conference years ago. A young lady mentions that she had a good friend that was at home making a dish, put the wrong ingredients in there, couldn't get to that phone in time, and actually, she's no longer here at this point. That really stuck with me to this day because as exciting as what we're doing is, it's a really exciting innovation. We're trying to save lives at the end of the day. So the things we're really passionate now are about moving things forward. There was great conversations with FDA groups in the last couple of weeks that can help hopefully push things forward. So ultimately, it's a combination of my experience, but most importantly, Hillary, one of our core values here at Allergy is proactive patient-driven design, right? So making sure that we talk with the patients, the parents, doctors, advocacy groups to make sure that we're not building something in a bubble, coming out 10 years later saying, hey, we got a thing, right? And that's been part of our, not competitive advantage, because we got to get to market with the device, but I think why people kind of identify with this, right? I'm just another patient, saw an opportunity like you mentioned, and we just so happen to have a lot of common-minded individuals that want to see this through.
I love it. And I have so many follow-up questions just based on all the things you just said. So I want to talk about the device a little more, and then we're going to get back to the software and the app. So tell us, I know you have a patent for it. Tell us exactly where you are in the process and when we hope it might get approved, come to market. What does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So we get that question all the time, and I think that's a great question to get. Right now, this is part of the question, not going off a deviation, okay? So in our space, in the startup space, startup funding is a big thing, and it takes X amount of dollars to get to a certain milestone. I like to say that we worked a couple of miracles with the amount of capital we've raised doing out of Detroit. At average typical seed rounds, this is typically a round that helps startups like us take it towards commercialization. But we talked about access and equalities and things like that for food allergies. The same problems are a little bit louder in the VC and startup space. So the $150 billion that was put into startups last year, 0.01% was given to all Black founders. We got a small piece of that, and we got patents. We were able to move things forward. So now we're in a better position. We just closed the seed round. We're looking to get involved in a Series A. So for the folks that are outside of my little startup bubble, that means we're getting well equipped to bring the resources to the table. To directly answer your question, it just really depends on, I like to say there's two different ways of getting your device to market, David with or David versus Goliath. And we're starting to have increased partnership conversations because I firmly believe that it takes a village to really improve the food allergy ecosystem. different industries, I think you can kind of go it alone and someone's going to help you out. But from day one, when we started this journey, FAIR was the first website that came up when you put in food allergy, period. And from there, whether it's some of the initial support we got or just kind of following different ecosystem leaders in Twitter, it's really helped us out to kind of figure it out. So from a commercialization standpoint, that would be about a 2-year window, could be 3. It just really depends on, the speed of the FDA at that point. But we gotten close to hitting the key markers, and that's around getting that partner that can help you see it all the way through. We do have an app available, and we could talk a little bit later about our upcoming innovation that was powered by the NSF, the National Science Foundation, around food allergy immunotherapy. So we're a small startup working on a lot, but we want to add value now rather than wait a couple years.
That's awesome. And don't worry, we're going to get to that OIT platform. I've got it
Absolutely.
on my long list of questions for you. There's just so much you're working on, which is exciting. Last question about the device. So as you know, as a food allergy patient, the recommendation is always to carry 2 devices, 2 epinephrine devices. As a food allergy mom, I've unfortunately had to use 2 at a time. So I know how important it is to have it. How are you guys handling that? Because I know it's 1 device on your phone. How are you handling that?
Yeah, so we've had that conversation internally around potentially doing a dual injector down the road. But the way we look at the current market, around 2/3 of patients and caregivers typically are not carrying it all the time. So we want to be that minimal backup device. And the way our device will work, the one that's on the back of your phone case, that's always going to have that alerts mechanism kind of play. However, let's say we're going to sell ours in 2s as well, golden standard. You'll have that in that purse, you'll have that in that car. So kind of the same protocol, but at least the starting quarterback, quote unquote. I'm a Bears fan, so it's a long story behind me saying that out loud on this podcast. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you have something with you at all times, right? So we think that, as it relates to the current state of folks having food allergies and kind of managing that, we feel that we can kind of level up in terms of adherence by being there. Down the road, I just mentioned, we're a very innovative company, so you never know, there might be something down the road that has a dual injector.
That's terrific. And you know what I'm thinking too is if I have my phone next to me, of course, if I'm walking out the door and it's attached to my phone, it's going to make me also think, grab the extra one too.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have like a medicine bag or it's in some random purse or some random backpack, you're not going to be thinking about it. So I think that's a great solution. So let's move to the app. Let's talk about the software. Yeah. So you currently have an app. It is available. It is awesome. Tell everybody what's on there now and then what you're working on that's going to be coming next.
Yeah, so our thesis was treatment and lifestyle. So treatment was kind of more so on the device side. Lifestyle was making sure that we fit within the 365-day, daily lifestyle of all of our food allergy friends and family. So we built a HIPAA compliant, meaning that we care about your data. I used to work at a PBM, or really pharmaceutical benefit manager and health insurance company as an app developer. That's where I got my chops. So really figuring out ways to add value to not just the patients, but also potentially payers down the road. So simple app that allows you to create an allergy profile. There's other apps that kind of do similar things. For the most part, we position it differently, but also give you the ability to track daily what you're eating on a daily basis. That's kind of a rigorous thing to do for most food allergy or just allergy or food apps in general. So we want to make sure you can do it in about a tap or 2 for the most part, right? Looking at what recipes can work for you, what grocery stores can work for you. And we have something coming up that can help out when you start to go out to eat as well too, with our current lifestyle app that's available now on iOS and Android. We were fortunate to be included on the top 20 app, top 2021 apps. I'm in a different year at this point, as it relates to all things food allergy. And it really kind of just spoke to just keeping it simple, right? I think there's other apps that can do other aspects of our journey pretty awesome, but we just focus on utility. Again, we're there when you need it and not when you don't, right? We want you to focus on Instagram and all the other cool tools and apps you're using for the most part, but never losing sight. And also, all of these profiles that you're creating within our application are also shareable, right? So if the kid's getting babysat or you're going to school for the most part, you can at least get a sense of, hey, look, at least at minimum, folks know what's going on, what my kid can eat. At the moment, we just have top 9, and one of our biggest requests is getting, hey, I have an allergy to kiwi or pineapple, random things that my allergy might be random to someone else, right? So we want to make sure that we're fully inclusive as we look at the next iteration of our current mobile application on iOS and Android.
Terrific. Well, I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for the app. I have it downloaded. It's awesome. And the food diary, I was thinking as I was going through it, actually would be so helpful for those younger families, the newly diagnosed, where their kids might still be having some of those initial reactions and you're not sure to what. And if you're logging what your child is eating, it gives you such a better picture. So there's so many different reasons why this is important. So thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for this awesome app for our community. Now let's move on to the OIT platform. I'm dying to talk about that. As you mentioned, the National Science Foundation gave you guys a grant to build this. Tell us everything.
Yeah. So, we saw the writing on the wall at the beginning of the pandemic. Everything reset, right? And we wanted to make sure that we could still provide impact, because I started to kind of have fear, like, what if we can't, I'm transparent, what if we can't raise anymore? It seems like the world is shutting down. Can we just build some software and just help, right? That was something that's always been low-hanging fruit, my expertise, but now I have lots of friends that can help out to make me do what I do better. So looking at the first FDA-approved version of at least the first OI or oral immunotherapy, we saw that it was approved with an asterisk mark, an RUS designation, stating that you have to carry an epi at all times. You got to track things a certain way, and there are a lot of gotchas in this amazing life-changing therapy. It's something that I've seen countless stories of folks improving quality of life, having less anxiety for the most part, but it's just hard, right? And then lastly, I'm a big fan of looking at adjacent areas of the business. So not even our business, but just in general. So can I learn from the gaming industry? Can I learn from different sectors of healthcare? And in this case, we found another company in healthcare that did something similar, but in another disease state whereby you have all these different inputs. So a mobile application for patients and caregivers to input daily. How is the treatment going for the most part? What are the issues that are going on? Mentally, how are you feeling, right? Because I think that's something we don't capture well enough. Our doctors need support on that, because my heart goes out to all doctors, because even if you're an allergist, you're talking about COVID. And that's something that probably kind of wears you down. I had to DM another allergist recently to make sure they were good, right? So building tools to make sure that they can just focus on bedside manners and just the patient relationship. On the other side, a web platform for doctors to in real time know what's going on, but not be pinged on a daily basis, and at least know after, when this person's going to come see you in a bit, are they compliant? Has Javier Jr. or Hillary's kids, are they taking X amount of products on a day-to-day basis? Do we have to start over? Can I send them a nudge to keep them going for the most part? These are tools that we learned through that proactive patient-driven design approach, right? Talking with some of those pharma companies, talking with the patients that go through this for the most part. So the NSF grant, the National Science Foundation, is called America's Seed Fund. So to have one of the most rigorous organizations go through due diligence with them and see and be told that we have something that can move the industry forward and help a lot of families was really humbling. So where are we at today with this, right? We moved pretty fast on the software side, I'm happy to say. So pending any regulatory requirements as we go through that exercise, we should be able to have some early beta opportunities available by beginning of next year. But we are going to be asking our audiences and actually our food allergy community for help. So this is perfect timing. I appreciate the question. We're going to be putting out some surveys. I don't know if I could talk about the nature of them, but there'll be incentives for you to stay in tune with your health, and also help to support science that can help move the industry forward in general. So we're really excited. We believe that there's about 4 to 5 companies, the minimum, that we can support with this at minimum, but we have some great relationships with the top ones at this point. The big goals for us now is to make sure that we start to continue to demystify. There's lots of ups and downs of OIT that I'm totally aware of. There's there's other treatments that may be better suited for other folks, right? We have software that, believe it or not, will work for them as well. That's in a pipeline. So in the interim, we really want to kind of start with something that was already regimented, protocoled out by the FDA, build some solid software around it, and start getting in front of people, because this is the same patient population that's going to need our auto injectors, and it could be a nice relationship to build now, in addition to the folks that have downloaded our lifestyle applications. So we've learned a lot, I will say, from the lifestyle application that you mentioned, what works, what doesn't work. So you may see some Me Too's or some bigger versions, better versions in our new application, but we're really excited, and the feedback, Hillary, has been tremendous thus far from the key stakeholders that we've shared a bit. I might share something with you after this, just because you asked about it as well.
That's amazing. And so just to clarify, will this be specifically tied to Palforzia or to any practice that's doing any form of OIT?
Yeah, the approach has always been OIT in general. We know
Right.
that there's traditional OIT as well too, because I know that doctors sometimes say, "Hey, look, here's some Captain Crunch peanut, or here's some peanut butter." These are different types, but they just have a better comfort with that, right? Can we give them the tools that help them say that, you know what, maybe this FDA approved version is better for you, or maybe this is a different route for you to go as well too. So totally, we thought about those that are doing it in a different way, and the way this works, there's templates. I'll share that much with you. So if a doctor wants to put in their own version of how their practice does it, you can do that in real time as well too. So we want to make sure we're a tool and not getting in the way of things, right? I think some technology tends to try to replace our doctors. That's a recipe for disaster. So we want to make sure we give them the ball and they can just run with it.
That's super cool. So my boys just started OIT, both of them. Let's see, probably like 6 weeks ago now. And so I'm very new to it, but have researched it for a long time. You and I were talking before we started about how we're like research nerds,
Yep.
research junkies, love research. I've been watching all this for such a long time, and we finally decided to go for it. It's a complicated process. There's a lot to manage, and you don't want to bother your doctor. And I mean, there's such a need for this. And then the ability to collect the data, I think, with all healthcare, but certainly with food allergy, which still has a lot of work to do, still is new-ish. Any data we can collect for the greater good is so important. So I'm excited to see this evolve. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's super important and very, very exciting. So thanks for sharing so much about it.
No problem. We're super excited to share with it. There's certain things that we have to keep under the vest for a bit, but this is something we want to be as loud as possible. We're excited for support of FAIR, hopefully getting involved in different areas to support that as well. So super exciting time for us in the food allergy industry. And I'll acknowledge that I think we're having a moment in this industry. I think that the one silver lining, just kind of going off topic, I know we have a lot of questions. The one silver lining as it relates to COVID in this pandemic is that there's a big ever emphasis on all things healthcare. Obviously, all things COVID related is very much important, but now dollars are starting to get into our different parts of I think the public dollars tend to lead first, and then you start to see the private dollars kind of kick up. And I remember seeing that at the Food Allergy Science Initiative a couple of years ago. I'm seeing that the chart we're starting to go up. Now we're starting to go here. So super exciting times in our space. Hopefully we move faster.
Hopefully we do, but yeah, it's amazing. So we've been in this world for 9 years since my boys were diagnosed, and the change that's already happened is amazing. And everything that I know that's coming thrills me. So I'm glad that we're here in this time and can't wait for everything that's coming. I want to go back to access a little bit, diversity and inclusion. I know that's really important to you. Tell me about MedTech Color. I know this is an organization you're a founding member. I'd really love to hear some more about that and tell us how we, the audience, can help with that.
I appreciate you asking. My meeting before this, actually, we had our fourth annual MedTech Color breakfast. It's actually a convening of the top minds and just upcoming minds, some of the most passionate folks, not just for diversity and inclusion, but also in healthcare. The same problem I talked about in the startup ecosystem, we have something similar going on in MedTech in general, from funding, from getting access to commercial partners and things of that nature. So we really wanted to kind of create a opportunity for folks to kind of meet across the table. I think when you break bread with another individual, I'm not going to say you're BFFs, but you see them eye to eye, and you can start to kind of move the industry forward. It was started by like 3 different FDAers that saw the problem firsthand. And I was able to join through serendipity. I say that was the most random email exchange ever that got me in front of them. Kwame Omers, the founder of it. And ultimately, a couple of things. Number one, get more Black and brown CEOs into our space. I think there's lots of other patient entrepreneurs that can do a lot into disease states that typically impact different patient populations that will be reflective of the USA of tomorrow. On the other side, you have folks, we're not all about getting everybody into entrepreneurship. It ain't for the faint of heart. So if you are getting into corporate America, can we find ways to help you break through that glass ceiling? Lots of women are not getting the fair shake, and women of color are not getting it at double times over, right? So making sure you have those partnerships, mentorship, et cetera. And then obviously I'm a startup junkie. So, outside of my research hat, Hillary, I love startups. So we threw our very first pitch competition last year or earlier this year. It's all a blur when you're doing it from the room, but ultimately we gave out $100,000 in prizes to 10 Latinx Black companies, and lots of other organizations said they couldn't find them. We found them in about a month and a half, right? So it kind of shows you the access piece, getting folks in front of the right dollars, one. Secondly, making sure that there's different ways to provide resources and support moving forward for the most part. So really good organization. Lastly, not to belabor it, when you talk about access, we talk about diversity in clinical trials. That's something that we really got to do better at in general. So really getting trusted stakeholders to work with the FDA and top pharma and med device to make sure that we get more representation. So when I think about some of our immunotherapies that have gone through clinical trials, that was the white glove experience. You know, it was a different level. How do we copy and paste that and make sure that we get that into different communities? Black and brown kids, that's the fastest growing population of food allergy in America, right? Making sure that we get involved with them with what we got going on. That's part of our NSF grant diversity, so 100%. So definitely just an organization that fits within the things I value the most, equity, economic empowerment for folks, and just giving people a fair shot. I got a fair shot. Fair's been very helpful. Detroit's been super supportive of me. So I want to create that level of benefit of the doubt. That's our goal, that is, for the next level, the next generation of founders and execs in our industry. So really blessed to work with Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, Stryker, some of the top names and minds, Ben Dickinson as well, BD in the country. And super grateful that they pulled me in as their little brother. I used to be the person that did the websites. Now I'm helping out in different areas. So it's a good way for me also, Hillary, because running an organization, the humbleness when you work with another organization keeps you balanced. So that's been another thing I didn't think that will help me out personally to get mentorship with some top minds in the industry. So if you want to support us, definitely go to medtechcolor.org. We have a donation button. If you just want to support by way of helping out with whatever your skill set is, we would love to talk with you as well, because we move things together forward. It takes a village to move things, not just in food allergy, but also in DE&I as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that overview. And it sounds like such an impressive organization. So happy that work is being done. And while we're here, you are one busy guy. You're also on the board of a couple of additional organizations. So tell us about that and the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So another one of obviously friends in the food allergy area, FACT, sit on their diversity, equity, and inclusion board, just to kind of find ways to make sure we shape the industry differently. That's been a fun experience. Love Eleanor and the work that her, Carolina are doing over the last couple. Carolina wears many hats as does Eleanor. I used to sit on the board of a local bank in Detroit, and that gave me the training wheels that I can use to kind of be better as a leader. First Independence Bank in Detroit, great experience. Now I sit on the board for Avamid Excel. It's a medical device lobbyist group, so pushing innovation through, trying to get reimbursement, and really at large trying to move the industry forward. That's been a very learn on the go experience for sure. And most recently, you made me think about it. Matter Health. I do a lot. I didn't think about that. But Matter Health is based out of Chicago. They give me grace, but that's where I'm from, and I sit on the board with a couple of VCs and folks from Blue Cross Blue Shield, et cetera, Google as well, that help to just diversify the programming, because this is all about startups. It's all about digital health, more digital health focused, but obviously they work with all forms of healthcare. So again, it fits within the buckets: food allergy, equity, economic empowerment. And other than that, I play lots of basketball on the side, but I'm not going to the NBA, so I'll have lots of time. So it's been a fun journey, and I'm super fortunate, Hillary, to support amazing organizations and leaders, and just giving my 2 cents and letting them run with it. It's been exciting.
So you just gave me my transition to my next question by bringing up basketball. So you are very busy. It's very clear you have an absolute ton on your plate of really, really important work projects. Mm-hmm. But you brought up the basketball. So I listened to your interview on the Shandyland podcast, one of my very favorites. And She's awesome. My friend, brought up self-care. And I am a massive fan, proponent, loudspeaker person talking about the importance of self-care. I think especially when you manage a chronic illness, or you're the parent managing your kid's chronic illness, or you're working 500,000 jobs like you're doing, it's just so important to take care of ourselves. And it was so enlightening to hear a man talk about it, frankly. Mm-hmm. So tell me how you manage your time, because I think it must be easy for you to work 50 hours a day, and how you take care of yourself and how that sort of affects who you are as a human.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that question the most. I think that's something that, especially in this go-go culture that we live in right now, people put this hashtag that's crippling, team no sleep. You need sleep. You need rest. You need to be kind to yourself. And personally, I used to play sports, and sports I bring up a lot because it taught me the discipline, right? You got to get up super early to do this thing that your body doesn't feel like doing, but the reward on the end of the other end of that spectrum is that you're stronger, better, faster, et cetera, right? So I do the same thing here. Depending on where I'm at, because the journey takes you all over the country. Get up early. If I'm somewhere else, light workout. Make sure you're checking that email early and time box. Making sure your time box is very interesting, and time boxing for fun as well too, because family is super important. That's something I had to kind of do as of last year. I was time boxing everything but family, and that was actually something that drew away from me. And as a startup founder, you can kind of get lost in the journey. It's a very lonely journey, even though you got lots of support for people like y'all. So for me, a couple of things. One, whether it's meditation, working out in the morning, or at least once or twice a week, working on my jump stop or my Euro step, which is a great basketball move that I just did on Fair's podcast. But at the end of the day, it's just different ways to like keep the mind fresh, take your mind off of the key things you're working on a day-to-day basis, and just find a way to smile on a daily basis. I think that's something I've noticed recently. Find a way to smile. Sometimes it's a silly meme. Sometimes you got to figure it out yourself, or just talk with friends and family. But that's super important. One. Secondly, giving yourself one day off is super important. You would think that I'm doing it 7 days a week. I was at one point, guilty as charged. But these days I take at least one day just to kind of recharge, reset. And do I sneak on my phone a little bit? Yes. Okay, I'm human. Every now and then that happens. But what I found is that because the days that I truly commit to self-care, maybe watching the full game versus the highlights as an example, or going on that walk versus just walking around the house, that's where I found that I find myself relaxed, refreshed, going into my week so I can do the work that I do. But yeah, time boxing is the biggest thing. I'm probably going to have to hire an assistant at some point because it's starting to get to the top. But before I got there, it was all about time management, making sure you stay committed to those things. And also, by the way, as disciplined as that sound, there will be days and times where I just don't have it. So if it's Wednesday morning and I know for a fact I did work out this Wednesday morning for the record, but if it's another Wednesday morning, we want to make sure I'll give myself grace, right? Maybe I'll work out in the afternoon, do something smaller, just not to check a box, but to make me feel good for the most part. So I think whether you're a founder, but specifically for the food allergy parents, a lot of people are not hearing, you tell somebody, hey, my kid has an allergy to this, you go to the dinner, you go to the wedding, you're sitting there starving for the most part. Getting ahead of those things, time boxing, planning out in advance is helpful. Obviously, we have tools that hopefully can help you engage better in life, but I really believe in just time management. I can't say that enough. Time management, self-care, meditation is a reminder. I got to do that more, but the working out has been my cheat code recently, just to kind of I can be a kid again, right? Just run around, be wild, crazy. And then when I pull my phone up, it's game time. And I enthusiastically am looking forward to getting on that phone because I'm not tired. I'm not just rolling out of bed, working. Coffee's not stimulating me. I did that. And I think that's something that we should all do. You don't got to shoot a basketball. You don't got to do push-ups. Go for a walk. Read a book. Listen to a podcast that's kind, because there's a lot of cynical things on the web these days. And talk to good people. And that's something that's really helped me out, especially over the last since we've been kind of cooped up and things have changed over the last year and a half to this point. That's been the cheat code, Hillary. Otherwise, I would have said no to the 2, 3 things that came in the last year. I've said no a lot, and that's another thing I will just kind of end off on. Even though I do have a lot, let's say 5 things, there could have been 8 things, right? And I had to look in the mirror and say, am I doing this for the legacy? Am I doing this for the likes, right? And if I'm doing this for social media, I'm going to burn myself out. If I do this for legacy, I can really put my all into the areas that I'm really great at. And that's it for the most part. Or just be kind to yourself for the most part.
I love that. Yeah, we have a family motto. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So
I love that.
Knowing what's really important to you and what's not. Those were so many amazing tips, not only for food allergy families, but for entrepreneurs, for anybody out there. Thank you for sharing all of that. I have to say, I always do research on anybody. Let's see research again on anybody I'm interviewing, and I've seen so much of the work you've done. There were a couple of things that I heard you mention in other interviews that I really wanted you to share with this audience. So the first is your adapt and attack. And I'm just thinking, this show is called Take Action. There's going to be people watching who are trying to figure out how they can get involved, whether it's through advocacy or through entrepreneurship. Talk to me about adapt and attack, because I love this theme.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for asking that. I think great questions. That's one of our core values and our first core value. And I think it's now a life motto at this point. Adapt and attack basically is the essence of grit. No matter what, you're going to figure it out, right? I talked about the $150 billion and the 0.01% going to Black founders. We figured it out, right? We figured not how to solve that problem, but to still hit the milestones, still grow the company and get to a point that makes sense. Adapt and attack as a parent. Hey, I went to this wedding and there's literally nothing but bread and there may be something in there that can't do the butter. But I've done this once, don't judge me. I did DoorDash. I had somebody send me some food. I went to the front lobby, kind of ate a Subway sandwich and started dancing in about 30 minutes, right? That's the funny part of adapting and attack, but really it's just a motto around, hey, look, no matter what, there's always a way forward. You just got to figure it out. It may just be a longer route. It wasn't that straightforward way to kind of get to your destination, but finding ways to get the job done, to move the mission forward is what that really speaks to. And it's something that I see my team is amazing, by the way. They embody it. At first, I'm like, am I repeating myself too much when it comes to this adapting attack? It sounds so corny at times, but it really means a lot. And it's really a very strong statement when you think about what it means in terms of getting things done for the most part. So yeah, the art of figuring it out, that's adapt and attack.
I love it. Not corny at all. I think it's super powerful, easy to remember, something that everybody can use in their day-to-day lives. I'm going to ask you one more. You said in the interview, when times get tough, and you said, I mean, tough, you have to remember your why. Now, I think it must be kind of hard for you to have one why, because there's so many reasons why the work that you do is important. But at the end of the day, what is your why?
You know what? My why, the foundation is really to show folks that people that look like me can impact this world in ways you probably wouldn't have thought in the first place. And it doesn't matter that I look this way, right? It's a benefit. I think when I think about other industries, Hillary, and this is not to get into division, it's really just kind of looking at this trends. Uh, Black and brown people have made lots of other industries excel, whether it's entertainment, whether it's obviously a sports thing. We're getting into tech, we're getting into healthcare for the most part. I think combined with the resources, again, it takes a village nonetheless, but allowing that inclusivity is super important. So my why is to show that, the kid that wears a hoodie in Florida walking down the street, he's not looked at as a threat, he's looked at as the next startup founder, right? That's a fundamental shift in the way you view that person, right? My why on the other side is just showing that you can leverage different types of technology and build something different. A couple of years ago, Hillary, and I'm kind of cheating and answering it differently, but
That's okay.
before, yeah, we were the first company to kind of one of the earlier companies in our space. I would say lots of other companies did this, but I was told so many times, focus on the device, focus on the app. We knew that they were one and the same in terms of providing the best experience. Now it's become the standard, right? So remembering the why means that you knew that there's something there. You validated with the core or audience that you want to meet and improve lives in the first place. Just keep going. Adapting the tech to get there, obviously, but remember the why, and the why is kind of breaking the norm, rewriting the narrative is very important because I think we're just going to have a better next phase of whatever's next in this world, right? So many things are changing on a day-to-day basis. We just got to be kind to each other, give each other a shot, and just remember that why. Because when your why, when you're working hard, let's say we go back to sports, easy example, when you're doing push-ups, bench press, and you start sweating and struggling, you want to quit. Well, you're trying to be the best athlete. From a founder perspective, let me listen to this podcast while doing this thing so I can be the best person, the best mom, food allergy parent, make sure that I pack the snacks before I go to this wedding, things like that. Remembering the why. It's just all about making sure that you get in front of the issues that you probably can't predict in the first place by having a solid foundation. And that's guided me. I'm very grateful. My faith is very important to me as well too. That's probably the number one baseline. That's what this foundation sits on for the most part. But sticking with that approach has opened up so many doors, and I'm forever grateful. It's been a great journey, but I'm super excited where we're going because the why is manifesting slowly but surely. And I'm starting to see change, whether it be through the food allergy industry changing the way their social media looks and their web pages look and their team pages look for the most part, to MedTech Color and the work we're doing to impact the greater MedTech and digital health industry in large. So I'm blessed, but it takes a village. I'm just one of many. I will never take credit of it for myself.
I have to tell you, I am so inspired. Just this whole conversation has fired me up. You are so positive and smart and with it on all things food allergy, entrepreneurship, taking care of yourself. You really are. You're outstanding. And thank you for everything you're doing for this community. You really are. I know you're going to say it's part of a community, but you are moving the needle and we are all going to benefit from it. So I thank you for everything you're doing. Really thank you for your time today. Before we part ways, please tell everyone all the ways they can find you and Alerje online.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again for the opportunity. You can reach us at alerje.com. That's ALERJE.com. From there, you'll see all our socials. We're at Alerje on everything except for Instagram, Alerje with an underscore. We're going to find that person who got it, but that's another conversation for another day. But Hillary, thanks again. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to FAIR for the platform.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we're going to add on that if you are looking for any food allergy information, check out fairfoodallergy.org. You can check out tons and tons of great video content on the Living Teal channel. And if you want to follow along with me, I'm on social media at Hillary Toll Carter. My website is also hillarytollcarter.com. Javier, this was such a treat. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thanks for your time today. I know you inspired everyone at home to take action.
Thanks so much. Let's make every moment count. Appreciate it.